by the time the Kenya Defence Forces pulls a trigger, I'm sure that must be an escalation of conflicts towards levels of mutiny or something of the sort. I think that would be because the Kenya Defence Forces cannot step in where where threats have not escalated to that level. But looking at the whole of this scenario and everything that has gone on, and right now, we don't seem to be sure of who should have done what and who should do what. Because this is a country and we must ensure that there is constitutional order and the rule of law. Somebody should be able to tell us, in normal protestations around Parliament, do you break the fence? And when the fence was pulled down and Parliament was invaded, where was the police? You know, this brings a lot of questions around the police. How were the protesters allowed to pull down a fence in the full glare of the police, and with so many police officers in the country, well-trained, well-equipped? Why were the protesters not controlled properly so that they could protest within the precincts, within the areas that they're supposed to? The moment you allow breakage into very sensitive institutions, then you are creating a confrontation and a reason even to kill, which would be very difficult to explain, to account.
Even though some of those people shot were actually outside Parliament, Mheshimiwa. They were not.
Whether they were shot inside and outside Parliament, but we agree this was an extraordinary occurrence, and therefore Parliament, I think, should have taken time to debate on all this going into the future, because Kenyans will be demonstrating. Some have led demonstrations to that Parliament in the past, and Kenyans are not going to stop demonstrating. So that brings in the question, how were these protests supposed to be controlled properly and managed by the police in an orderly manner? That's a big question, because the right to protest is provided for in the, Constitution, and therefore
my question
Parliament cannot run away.
Is that you, Mheshimiwa Sossion, is that you excusing killing?
No, it's not an excuse to kill. To pull a trigger to kill when there is no reason is not right.
Have you watched the documentary?
That is fundamentally, I've watched the documentary. I keep watching.
And you can see police kneeling to aim.
All of us will keep to aim. Of course, the police will, the guns and whatever are given to the police, but they're supposed to use
aiming at a protester who is outside Parliament.
We have seen all that. All of us have seen. And that brings me to question. We have a constitution. We have IPOA. Police Oversight Authority, and it is independent. I am sure they have seen these films. I am sure they should be able to generate a report and convince and take action on the police if unreasonable force was used, as shall be determined. I am sure Parliament will also take time out. Let's not talk of Parliament being captured. Parliament is not captured. Every member of Parliament is elected freely and independently by the people of Kenya. And Parliament is independent from the executive. And it is Parliament.
Let me ask you this, Mheshimiwa Sossion. So IPOA will take care of its independent policing oversight authority. What about KDF? Because there's a phase of a man believed to be from the KDF. What happens?
It is common knowledge that KDF was deployed to Parliament. And to assist the police in quelling the riots. And it was done via Gazette notice. It is not. So really,
after the fact?
That is a fact.
After the fact. The gazettement was after the fact.
Whichever.
Not whichever. KDF. There's a KDF officer who is captured as having killed one of the protesters. What should happen? Because IPOA cannot investigate KDF, can it?
Of course, definitely you can't. IPOA cannot investigate.
So how does that
KDF.
family get justice?
IPOA will have jurisdiction over the police, but they don't have jurisdiction over the KDF.
So what happens?
That's a fact.
That's what I'm asking. So what should happen?
Tell me who will investigate KDF. And by the time KDF come in, that is an extraordinary situation that borders on mutiny. And you see, when you overturn parliament, when you break into parliament, when you destroy and disagree, that is mutiny. Or the Supreme Court. That's so by the time, the KDF are deployed, then you should know it indeed is a serious matter.
So Eric deserved to die?
No Kenyan deserved to die. I cannot qualify the killing of any Kenyan.
You're excusing it. Wakili,
and the circumstances that prevailed, of course, I may not account as an individual citizen.